Attributes. Whether you're an endgame player with billions invested into them, or an early game player that doesn't even really know what they do, I think most of us can agree attributes need a rework. The admins have put out a few design threads before, hoping the community will like their changes, but they always seem to mess up somehow. In this video, I attempt to make an attribute update that 1. Makes attributes better to use, obtain, and sell. 2. Branches attributes out to other parts of the game like mining and farming. 3. Attempt to not kill Kuudra with these ideas, that's a big one. 4. Add on to Kuudra to make it better and attempt to have it be even more fun and valuable. And 5. Rework a few items and attributes to give them an actual niche or purpose in the game. First things first, we all know this one. Unsoulbind attribute shards and add them to Bazaar. That's the easy part. But where do we go from there? Attributes are annoying to craft due to having to anvil them together, so let's speed that up. To make crafting attributes easier, let's make it so you can use the crafting table. Put in 8 tier 1 attributes into the crafting table, and you'll get 1 tier 4 shard. Put in 4 tier 1s, you'll get a tier 3. This could go on and on with all the tiers of attributes to just make crafting them much faster and easier. The big change I would make, though, is to rework them to be very similar to gemstones. The admins have already stated that they have no issue with taking ideas from previous content, and gemstones are just such a good concept. Attributes having a similar design of being able to apply them, take them off, sell, or even just reapply them would do wonders not only in transitioning items that already have high-level attributes to this new system, but it would make it much more approachable for new players. Attributes could be acquired from other parts of the game as well, instead of just Kuudra. They could be dropped from mobs, dropped from bosses, be a reward at the end of a dungeon, all kinds of different options. But this is where things may get a little controversial, so just hear me out. I think attributes should be added to other items throughout the game. Wait. Put the pitchforks down. Stop. Don't type that comment. Stop it. Just hear me out. Last time this idea was suggested, people quickly brought up the balance surrounding several items if they had attributes. So let's go through a few examples to calm the nerves. We'll start out easy with Sorrow Armor. One big issue people had with this set was that Sorrow Armor could have the Magic Find attribute, and that this would ruin the purpose to putting Magic Find on Crimson. Easy fix. Sorrow can only have mining attributes. No Magic Find, no Veteran. Crimson can still have that niche. Another problem people had was that attributes were on literally everything. Though Lapis Armor with attributes is pretty funny, it's also pretty dumb. So, similar to gemstones, only put them on gear that people use and max out. The third example was the hardest to balance, Wither Armor. I debated between 0 and 1 attribute slots for a while, and eventually settled on 1 slot. Low kata players would likely use speed, whereas high kata players would use dominance or lifeline. The 1 attribute slot would stop it from being totally broken, as you kinda have to pick between damage, speed, or EHP, I guess. This, I think along with a small buff to Aurora, would keep it and Storm in their separate niches instead of Storm out-damaging Aurora. To compensate, dungeon bosses could have their health raised to accommodate this extra damage, and the speed could be added like Mana Pool so it's not boosted by kata level. As for an item that should have had attributes from the start, I present the Rift Necklace. Added with the Rift update, this best-in-slot necklace has been shafted by items with attributes, basically being relegated to a mid option for nothing. Giving it attributes would allow it to have that best-in-slot status, without having to make its stats insane, as its stats are already insane for a necklace. Overall, adding attributes to other items would help the market for them become larger to compensate for them being easier to get and more of them existing. Let's add mining and farming attributes as well. These are pretty straightforward. Simple attributes like more mining speed or more mining fortune are simple enough, and adding them to the mining loot tables wasn't very hard as there's plenty of spots to put them. The same was true with farming. Give a few small buffs as attributes and just add them as rewards to farming content. I could have done foraging, but 1, I didn't really feel like it, and 2, I kinda want to see what the admins can do on their own, for better or for worse. This was the easy part of making an attribute update, but now we get to the really challenging part of coming up with any attribute changes. The hard part of making an attribute update is how you balance Kuudra. Considering Kuudra is centered around attributes, any changes you make to the attribute system need to be thought about for Kuudra as well. Attribute shards would still be part of Kuudra's loot table, that wouldn't change. As for what I would change though, 1. Godrolls are removed. It sucks, I don't like it either, but for the sake of this update idea, I had to remove them. 2. The tier of Kuudra determines the shard level. You do a basic run, you get a tier 1 shard. You do an infernal run, you get a tier 5 shard. Several shards like Mana Regen, Veteran, and Magic Find are locked to Kuudra to keep profit up. 3. A new item, called the Attribute Upgrader, would be used to make tier 10 shards. Just like before, you craft it with either 2 tier 9 shards, 4 tier 8 shards, or 8 tier 7 shards, and you'll get a tier 10 shard. Pretty straightforward. 4. Strawn Reforged Stone for armor. Only gives strength and crit damage, best outside dungeons, but ancient would still be better in dungeons. 5. A best in slot reforge for farming tools. I don't know, why not? 6. Kuudra scales, which could be used to make several things. The first thing I could come up with was the Kuudra scale mix-in, which boosts all attributes by 20%. They could have other purposes in crafting recipes, that's just what I could come up with on the spot. 7. Wheels of Fate become Kismets for Kuudra. It sucks, and I didn't really know what to do with them since their entire item, history is based off of RNG attributes. I would also add a system like Croesus for Kuudra, just because, why not? Why doesn't it have one, honestly? 8. Kuudra now drops 2 primary drops, which is everything that isn't an attribute shard. You get 1 attribute shard, and then your essence and teeth, of course. Completing the run with 0 deaths, however, will cause you to get another attribute shard. I feel like this is just a cool addition. Why not have it so if you do Kuudra well and no one dies, you get more loot. Kind of like an S+ in dungeons. 9. Armor, equipment, and weapons dropped from Kuudra no longer come with attributes, since we're changing completely how attributes work with this idea. 10. Make the Enrager have an actually obtainable drop rate, and rework it to have a support ability. You hit a teammate with it, and you'll buff their damage by 20% for a few seconds. 11. Rework the Inferno enchant so that every 10 to 6 hits, you'll do 1.2 to 2x your melee damage in fire damage. Note, this wouldn't be affected by ferocity or additive damage buffs. Also note, this would make it not work on bows, so add an NPC that would refund people who put Inferno on bows. So that was my video on what I would make for an attribute update. Maybe you liked it, maybe you want to strangle me, I don't know. I decided to make it into a video rather than a forum post because the forums are scary. They scare me. Please, I don't want to go back. But yeah, anyway. I also posted in the description 2 spreadsheets, which go way more in depth than I could in this video on how I would balance attributes, what you get them from, certain ways I rebalanced them, all kinds of things. I also put in the description a bit of a Q&A, I guess, on what I assumed people would ask about what I didn't talk about in the video. So before you go commenting, what about my god rolls? What are you going to do to my god rolls, Bambi Lover 420? How will I get refunded for my god rolls? Please go to the description. Please go to the description. Don't take it out on me, bruh. I already answered. It's just in the description. If you want the short answer, they could be refunded. Don't worry about it. But yeah, a lot of things are in the description for this video, so check it out. And yeah, thank you for watching.